Hello, nerds. You have found Generally Nerdy. That's me. This is my channel. This show we like to call our Weekend Nerdom, and it is an update about everything that has happened in all of the nerddom since we talked about it last week. So this week we got a little bit of comic book news, we got a little bit of video game news. If you're reading Batman, or if you play Nintendo stuff, stick around. We're going to talk about stuff that you are going to love. We have a couple of updates on movie news that we started talking about last week, Han Solo and the Joker specifically. A couple other movie news things. They're rebooting The Crow. We're going to get into that. We have a fair amount of TV stuff to talk about. We have an official casting announcement for the new live-action Titans show. And it's just so much stuff to talk about. Without further ado, let's hit up some music. Generally Nerdy. First, before we get into the actual news on the things, we're going to talk about the news about the channel. I have some really great ideas for some new content, so keep an eye on the channel for different videos, not just your weekend and not just movie reviews and Comic-Con stuff, which, I mean, is fun, but there is more substantive stuff coming down the road. That being said, I am still going to Salt Lake in 3 weeks for Salt Lake Comic-Con 2017. Any and all cosplayers, if you are looking to do a photo shoot, if you are serious about your cosplay, private message me on Facebook. You can find me, facebook.com/generallynerdy. You can email me, dustin@generallynerdy.net. We can get something put together. We can get you a portfolio started. Again, if you want to take this seriously, or even just modeling, we can do that as well. No other general updates right now, so let's just move on to the news. First up, we have video game news, and there's really only one thing that I saw that was newsworthy for this week. I mean, there's always stuff going on in the world of video games. I guess, leave me a comment below. Maybe I can break each of these sections into its own video eventually, because, like I said, there's a lot of stuff that goes on in all of these areas. We just kind of do a general kind of interesting things that are going on. The interesting thing for video games this week is Metroid. It's been almost a decade since we had a Metroid game. This is going to be... It's not a Switch game, which is driving me a little bit crazy. It's going to be on the 3DS, and it's called Samus's Return, or Samus Returns, I can't remember, something along those lines. The last Metroid game was Metroid Prime Other M, which was not a very good game. I mean, I love Metroid. I think they're fun, but I did not like Other M. This is the return of Samus. Hopefully this is a return to super quality stuff. I'm still confused as to why it's not, there's no Switch version of it, why they wouldn't do some sort of correlation. Maybe the Metroid team is relegated to handhelds now. But I mean, the Switch is kind of a handheld, so I don't get it. Anyway, we are getting a new Metroid on September the 15th, so that's like 2 weeks out. So 3DS owners, go grab that. Always a good game with Metroid. Even Other M, the one that we didn't like very much, was still pretty good by comparison to other standards. But that's it for video games. We are moving on. In television news, we have The Inhumans started. The first 2 episodes were in theaters, and there was a big hullabaloo about it. But it didn't get very good ratings. I haven't watched it yet. I'm going to. I'm really interested to see what they do with Inhumans. I haven't heard anything spectacular about it. I haven't necessarily heard anything bad, aside from the fact that it's bland. And Inhumans is such an interesting story, interesting set of characters that how can you make that bland? I don't understand. But yeah, it's getting mixed and mediocre reviews, and I feel like this plays into the longer conversation we've been having about nerd media kind of hitting a wall when it comes to keeping our interest. But for all intents and purposes, been co-opted by mainstream pop culture, and it feels like it's getting washed out, like it's just covered in bleach and it's all kind of shallow. Producers see a new IP or something that hasn't been done before and think they're going to make $1 million, and then give it to people who don't know anything about the comic, and then they don't make their $1 million. And so I feel like if things like this keep happening, if we keep getting these mixed reviews, if we keep getting these sad adaptations, then we're going to stop getting as much wonderful comic book media, nerd media. So, I don't know. Nerds out there, start making movies, man. Start adapting stuff that makes sense. Start doing faithful adaptations, even, because what we're getting now, sometimes they're fantastic. Sometimes we get a Logan that's like, all right, so it's not super faithful to the original, but it's still a great movie standing alone by itself. Sometimes we get Wolverine, the X-Men Origins movie, the first one, and kind of the second one. Like, the last third of that movie, the third act of that movie was not very good. So, like, if we can get more nerds into the creation side of media, then we can get better quality stuff, and and people who understand that there is a fantastic story here to be told and how to tell it. Anyway, I've gone on enough about this thing in Inhumans. Hopefully it gets better. Hopefully the showrunners kind of take this initial mixed results and kind of up their game for the last half of the season, because I'm pretty sure they've already filmed up through this first half, or even beyond. The nature of television, though, they haven't finished filming the entire season yet, so hopefully they can up it a little bit, and we'll see a difference. I will watch it and keep you posted. Other television news. Totally forgot to mention this last week. The Tick has come to Amazon. Ben Edlund is producing and writing and keeping it awesome. If you haven't watched the first 4 episodes, because they're releasing a half a season at a time instead of an episode at a time, or instead of a whole season at a time, they're kind of finding some sort of weird middle ground. So they released 4 episodes on the 25th of August. Can't believe I didn't bring this up. And they're going to release another 4 episodes in another month, I believe. It is fabulous. This is such a great version of The Tick. We get more depth, and I feel like that's one of the reasons, aside from the fact that it was on Fox. That was kind of their first downfall. But there's depth to The Tick. And I know the Tick is super shallow character because he's only the Tick, and he thinks in such rudimentary terms and blah blah blah. But it's a universe, and to treat it as such, which they're planning on. Edlund has said that they're going to get in deeper with some of these other characters, because there is no getting in deeper with the Tick, but there's plenty of depth to Arthur. There's plenty of depth to the other superheroes in this world, and they're going to explore that through the eyes of the Tick, but still, they're going to explore that. And that's what it was missing when it was on Fox, because the Fox show is fantastic. It only went 2 seasons. Season and a half? Something along those lines. So, this is going to make up for what they lost in the Fox show. So, check it out. It's only 4 episodes. It's 4 hours. It's a half of a day. This Saturday, grab some munchies and go at it, because it's amazing. And final TV news, we have some Titans updates. It's been all over the internet, kind of. so I'm sure most of you who are watching this already know, but for those of you that don't know, we have 3 of the 4 mains cast for the Titans live-action show. So we have Brenton Thwaites, just was cast as Nightwing, so he rounds out the 3. The other 2, Anna Pyup as Starfire, and Tegan Croft as Raven. No announcement yet for who's going to be Beast Boy. And we don't officially know if there's going to be a Blue Beetle, so we can only assume that it's going to be those 4. I really like the Blue Beetle, so hopefully they cast him. I don't know that he's going to be in the show. I feel like we would know by now if he was going to be in the show. At least this first season, he's not. He's likely not going to be in, which kind of bums me out because he's one of my favorites in the Teen Titans. Anyway, Brenton Thwaites is from Pirates of the Caribbean, the 5th one, the Dead Men Tell No Tales. I stopped keeping track of those, man. After the 3rd one, it was like, they're coming back? I mean, it's a different whole other conversation, but apparently the kid's got some acting chops. We'll see what happens. They have some pretty big shoes to fill with that property, with the Titans. So let's see what happens. I can't wait for it to come out. And in comic books, something that I tend to kind of give a little bit of distance because there's so much. But I read a lot of Batman, so we're talking Batman. And there's a new book coming out November 1st that's called Batman the Dark Prince Charming. Has something to do with Batman and the Joker, obviously, because the Joker is the ultimate Batman villain. And how the 2 of them are related, or what they have to do with this little girl. That's all that was in the description. And the artwork makes Joker look really young, so I don't know. It's going to be. I can't remember who's drawn it. As we get closer to the release date, I'll have more information. There's a 20-page preview up online if you can find it. Read it. It's pretty great. Though I just really, really like Batman, so there's not a whole lot that's bad. In other Batman-related news, we have the Doomsday Clock has finally started. Issue 1 has hit shelves. Issue 2 is hitting shelves this month, actually, so it should be out in a couple of days from filming this, so by the time this is posted, it will have been out. Jeff Johns has said he is going to donate his entire earnings from issue number 2 to Hurricane Harvey relief, so that's pretty awesome of him. Jeff Johns is the man in charge of the DC universe right now. He is also technically in charge of the extended universe in the movies. We haven't seen a whole lot of good that's come of that yet, but the Doomsday Clock first issue was pretty good. We're starting to get a lot more information. We know now that the New 52 was just Dr. Manhattan screwing with things. There's so many tie-ins with so many different books. Definitely worth a read. And that brings us to the end of comic book news. And now, we're into movie news. So, Spider-Man Homecoming was a pretty middle-of-the-road movie. It wasn't bad, it wasn't great, it was mediocre. It was mediocre. It was more Iron Man light than anything, but we've already talked about this. We can continue this conversation. The same writing team is coming back for the second movie, for the sequel to Homecoming, and the same director is in talks to come back as well. He has said he wants to come back, but he's still negotiating his contract, so there's no absolutely he's coming back. So the writers are Chris McKenna and Eric Summers, and the director is John Watts, and I feel like because they treated this quasi-Origins movie so well, like I've said, it is a mediocre movie, but as far as origin movies go, it was not bad. It was good enough. it kind of covered these things in a little more unique way that we always get covered in a Origins story. But they kind of had a little jump start on that with Civil War. So now that all of that is covered, maybe we are going to get a great movie from them with the sequel to Homecoming. Maybe we'll get a little bit more of Spider-Man being your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man and less of Spider-Man being just a Tony Stark wannabe. I know that's really harsh to say, but it's kind of really true as well. So I feel like that's more of a good thing than a bad thing, that we have the same writing team and potentially the same director. That bodes more well than bad. So I'm looking forward to seeing who the villain's going to be, how they attack the villain, how they treat Spider-Man in his junior year of school. Because Homecoming was sophomore, the next one's junior, and then the last one is senior. So we're going to get to see, because in our collective consciousness, I grew up in the 90s and watched that animated film, consciousness, Spider-Man, Peter Parker is a high school student. So I feel like they're doing well by casting somebody who looks like a high school student and casting somebody who can grow with the series. So let's see what junior year brings. In kind of quick, sliding it on the rug there, Star Wars news, Paul Bettany has been seen in costume on the Han Solo movie set with no real announcement of A, that he was even there, and B, who he's going to be in the mythos. So, interesting. He is one of three, kind of 2.5, because Sam Jackson made the jump before Disney bought Lucas, but he's one of three actors who has been on both sides of Disney, both of the newer faces of Disney, both the Lucas and the Marvel sides. So, interesting. We'll see what comes of it. I mean, the Han Solo movie's going to be great. Ron Howard can't make a horrible movie, so we're at least going to get a passable movie. But I feel like we're going to get a really great Star Wars movie. With Rogue One being what it was, I can't see Han Solo being a step backwards. Rogue One was fantastic. We talked about that when it came out. Moving on. So, Sony owns the rights to do The Crow. If you remember, back in like 96, I believe, Brandon Lee was The Crow, and it's one of the best comic book movies out there. They're talking about rebooting it. Before they bought it, Jason Momoa, like freaking Khal Drogo and Aquaman, that guy, he was signed on to be the Crow. Very strange casting choice. I dig Jason Momoa. I think Khal Drogo is a fantastic character, in large part because of his acting abilities. I think he's going to do great things for Aquaman in the Justice League movie and then eventually the Aquaman movie. I just don't think his physicality is what the Crow was. He's too big. He's too much of a superhero, and the Crow is kind of not really an anti-hero, but kind of. Like it's such a different genre. The Crow is not a superhero. The Crow is a vengeful spirit. So, I don't know, just seems strange. Not saying it would have been a bad movie if it was Momoa. No announcement if Momoa is still on or Corin Hardy is still set to direct. All we know now is that Sony owns the rights and they're determined, rather, to make this reboot. Thoughts? I'm going to pass this one off to you guys. Is Jason Momoa a good choice? Should he stay on if given the option? Let's start a conversation down low. And in the last bit of news for this week and this section of movies, we have Joker updates. So last week we talked about the Joker movie and how it's going to be probably an Elseworlds story, and it's going to have nothing to do with the proper DCEU. It's going to kickstart this new movie imprint that Warner Brothers is going to start with this movie, obviously kickstart. So that being said, they're likely not going to use Jared Leto for the Joker. Early speculation was that they were going to use somebody younger and kind of do an origin story. Though now there's a lot of talk about them approaching Leonardo DiCaprio as the Joker. Now, Leonardo DiCaprio is a fantastic actor. The fact that it took him so long to earn an Oscar is probably a discussion for a whole nother video. And the movie he won the Oscar for, again, is probably a discussion for a whole other video, because that wasn't the movie he should have got the Oscar for. Should have been years before that. Anyway, so Scorsese's on to produce, and Leo's gonna... There's speculation that the fact that they got Scorsese was partially due to the fact that they wanted DiCaprio to play the Joker. I feel like that would be crazy interesting. That would be potentially one of the best Joker performances we've seen. I don't know that, again, anyone could really top Ledger. Ledger's Joker is in a whole other echelon, though, because it is such a reality-based universe that Christopher Nolan created. But I feel like DiCaprio could approach that character in a very meaningful way, just like Ledger did, but do something different to it instead of trying to ape Ledger or ape Nicholson or even Mark Hamill, which is kind of what Leto did in Suicide Squad. Was he was trying to encompass those three, because that's what we know of the Joker, and then he added his own weirdness to it. There's like this he makes like these strange animal noises, and it doesn't make sense, but he's still an okay Joker. He's probably the bottom of the four movie Jokers, but DiCaprio could easily outdo Nicholson, and I want to see that movie. Like, if it doesn't happen, it's gonna live in my head. I feel like I can easily sign on for Joker or Leonardo DiCaprio as Joker. If they choose, if Leonardo DiCaprio signs on, then likely we might get a version or a couple versions of an origin, but the movie will not be based around the origin, which is also fantastic news, because there's so much they can screw up if they try and base the whole movie on the origin of the Joker. And DiCaprio's the guy. If you want to change it, I feel like he's the one that can do it. So I am on board if Leonardo DiCaprio signs on for the Joker. For so many reasons. Though, I'm going to also hand this one off to you guys. Is Leonardo DiCaprio a good choice to play the Joker? Or is he too much of a face? Are we going to be distracted and be thinking, hey look, that's Leonardo DiCaprio playing the Joker, instead of, oh my god, the Joker's crazy. So, let's talk about that in the comment section down below too. And that brings us to the end. Please, guys, please head on over to the Patreon account. There's a link in the description below. You can sign up for $1 a month, get you early access to all of these videos, get you early access to any video I do. Or $2 a month, you get Patreon exclusive content, and even beyond that, you get other special things, potential to co-host with me here on the show to some degree. So definitely check out the Patreon. Hit me up on all the social media. If you like this video, definitely hit that like button. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button. And you got to do me one last favor, and that's remember always that if it's generally nerdy, it's probably right here.